What if I told you that Egypt was once a thriving civilization of over 100 million people? You'd probably picture pyramids and pharaohs. But what if I told you that beneath the hot sands of the Sahara, there's a secret that's been buried for thousands of years? Welcome to Egypt's underwater apocalypse. When scuba diving off the coast of Egypt, you'll find something truly amazing. You can explore massive stone temples, toppled statues, and even entire streets that have been hidden beneath layers of sand and silt for centuries. These submerged cities were once home to some of the most powerful people in the world, but they vanished without a trace. So why did these cities disappear? The answer might surprise you. Was it a curse from a disgruntled pharaoh? A natural disaster like a tsunami? Or perhaps something even more sinister, like a pre-human civilization that thrived in the region before humans arrived? Join us as we explore the shocking, untold story of Egypt's lost underwater cities and discover the terrifying truth about the apocalypse that claimed them. The people of Heracleion and Canopus didn't have a lot of warning. One moment, they were going about their daily lives in two of the wealthiest cities in the ancient world. The next, their homes were being dragged into the sea. How did this happen? Earthquakes. Earthquakes can raise entire sections of land or drop them into the sea. It's called a landslide. But for a long time, experts couldn't prove that's what happened to Heracleion and Canopus. There were no records of a great quake. The surrounding area seemed stable. And landslides, even underwater ones, usually leave behind scars on the surface. This one didn't. Or did it? Enter the Eastern Nile Delta. We know that between Alexandria and the modern Egyptian capital of Cairo lies a region of low-lying islands and swamps. But we didn't know that until recently. For centuries, the very existence of this delta was unknown, a secret hidden under hundreds of feet of water. When Gaudio and his team examined the topography of the seabed, they found something astonishing. The land wasn't just tilted, it had moved sideways. Entire sections of Earth had slid toward the north, dragging the cities down with them. But what caused that? The search for an answer led researchers to another discovery. The northern coast of Egypt seems to be missing. Satellite images show a clear gap where there should have been land. And yet other images from the late 19th century show a very different coastline. Comparing these two maps reveals the truth. Between the 1800s and now, nearly 10 miles of solid Earth have vanished. That missing land, according to scientists, was once home to many settlements, including Heracleion and Canopus. What happened to them is horrifying. Over the course of several earthquakes, the ground beneath them liquefied, then spilled into the sea. Islands were swallowed, buildings collapsed, and the shoreline retreated farther and farther away from the actual delta. In a few short moments, the cities became a watery grave. But why only these cities? Why did the rest of the Egyptian coast escape unscathed? No one knows for sure. Some scholars speculate that the cities may have been cursed. Ancient myths tell of the pharaohs flooding the Nile Delta as punishment for those who defied them. But there's no evidence to support this theory. Most experts agree that the destruction was a freak event, a natural disaster of unprecedented scale. But that raises even more questions. How often do events like this happen? And could it happen again? The good news is probably not anytime soon. The bad news is we may already be in the middle of a much bigger problem. Scientists predict that rising sea levels will eventually swallow the entire Egyptian coast. When that happens, who knows what secrets will be lost forever. The cities of Heracleion and Canopus already faded from living memory when the ocean took them. Now they're disappearing beneath the waves once again, leaving us with more questions than answers. How much longer will it be before their final resting place is disturbed, their secrets scattered to the winds? Only time will tell. The cities of Heracleion and Canopus are more than 2,000 years old. They existed at a time when Egypt was ruled by Greek pharaohs, a kingdom known as the Ptolemy. They flourished between the 3rd century BC and the 1st century AD, two eras known for their intellectual ferment and commercial might. Each city was home to countless temples and shrines dedicated to gods of the Egyptian pantheon. Together, they formed a powerful nexus of religion, culture, and commerce along the Nile Delta. But these cities weren't just cradles of culture, they were hubs of trade. Heracleion was famous for its lighthouse, one of the ancient world's 7 wonders. Its strategic location made it vital for ships traveling along the Mediterranean. The city was also renowned for its ivory and perfume industries. Meanwhile, further down the Nile, Canopus was celebrated for its library, second only to the one in Alexandria. Scholars flocked there to study and copy texts, preserving and spreading knowledge across the ancient world. Both cities were also significant religious centers. They drew pilgrims from all over the known world to worship at the shrines of Apis, the sacred bull god, and Osiris, god of the afterlife. Their shared prosperity and cultural importance made Heracleion and Canopus bastions of the Ptolemy kingdom, symbols of their rule. And yet these seemingly invincible cities had a fatal flaw. Their foundations were unstable. While the Nile had gifted the delta to the Egyptians, it was also secretly undermining it. The earthquakes came first, rattling the cities like dice in an invisible hand. Then the sea rose, exploiting every crack, swallowing the land and drowning the temples until the waterline reached the sphinxes and obelisks. Then it stopped. The Bible says, "And the deep that was beneath the sea became a pit, and drained the sea and all the living creatures that were in it, and the fish that were left alive fled away." Here, the sea took everything, even time. These cities didn't fade into oblivion gradually. They vanished abruptly, vanishing from maps, legends, and collective memory until rediscovered by chance. Now, only hints of their former glory remain scattered across seabed. An altar here, a column there, a sphinx half submerged, forever frozen in a silent scream. But how can we be sure such a catastrophic event actually happened? Evidence for the sudden destruction of Heracleion and Canopus comes from various sources. The historical record indicates that these cities were major population centers during the Ptolemy era, but archaeological finds reveal that they were abandoned abruptly, as if the inhabitants were forced to leave in haste. Underwater excavations have uncovered entire neighborhoods preserved in a state of disarray, suggesting a sudden evacuation. What's more, artifacts found at these sites indicate that they were not victims of gradual erosion or slow decline, but rather a catastrophic event that struck without warning. Ceramic fragments, pieces of furniture, and other everyday objects lie scattered and broken, giving us a glimpse into the chaos that must have ensued. All of these submerged ruins stand as stark reminders of the fragility of human civilization and the indifference of nature in the face of human ambition. They serve as a humbling reminder that our greatest achievements can be wiped away in an instant, leaving nothing but echoes in the sands of time. Yet amidst the tragedy lies a profound lesson in resilience. The legacy of Heracleion and Canopus lives on in the myths and legends that have survived the test of time. They remind us that even in the darkest moments, hope and remembrance can endure. By piecing together the remnants of these lost cities, we honor the countless lives that were disrupted and paid tribute to a civilization that once thrived in these very waters. As we explore the depths of their demise, we also discover the depths of human resilience, reminding us that even in the face of overwhelming odds, the spirit of humanity can endure. The sea gave up its secrets slowly. At first, only tantalizing glimpses. Broken columns here, a stray coin there. Then, as divers swept away centuries of silt, entire temples rose from the sand, revealing an Egyptian city so grand it could rival Cairo. This was Heracleion, a port city that once bustled with trade and politics. But by 1480 CE, when Arab armies seized the coast, it was abandoned and soon forgotten. For over a millennium, its streets fell into disrepair, becoming a seabed littered with rubble and legend. That is, until now. Since 2001, a team of archaeologists and divers have worked tirelessly to uncover it. But among the treasures they found, some things didn't quite fit. Deep in the ruins of Heracleion, archaeologists unearthed giant stone carvings of gods that didn't match any in known Egyptian records. Some resembled early forms of Heka and Serapis, hybrid deities worshipped during the Greek occupation, but others, they were stranger. There was a figure with an elongated skull and wide, insect-like eyes, cradling a serpent in one hand and a lotus in the other. Its name had been scratched away. Another temple wall depicted a ceremony where priests surrounded a floating orb, raising their hands in worship. Scholars dismissed it as symbolic, but others weren't so sure. These were not simply forgotten idols. They appeared deliberately hidden, walled off in isolated chambers far from the main temples, as if someone wanted them out of sight. Some chambers had collapsed roofs, suggesting a rushed attempt to destroy or bury them. So what were they hiding? And more importantly, why? Some Egyptologists believe these were early experiments in religious fusion, combining native Egyptian gods with foreign deities during turbulent times. Others suggest something more radical, that these were pre-dynastic belief systems, predating the pharaohs entirely. A lost culture with its own gods, buried by conquest and time. The real question isn't whether these gods were forgotten, it's whether they were erased on purpose. And beneath the waters of Canopus, even darker secrets would emerge. Unlike Heracleion, which was built for trade and politics, Canopus was deeply spiritual. It was a city of ritual, filled with temples, healing centers, and shrines. But what divers found in its ruins didn't align with traditional Egyptian practices. One chamber, when uncovered, revealed dozens of tightly wrapped bodies, stacked in unnatural positions. Fetal curls, limbs bound, some with skulls missing. The sarcophagi were unmarked, made of unpolished stone, with no inscriptions or blessings. These weren't royalty or honored priests. They were castaways. DNA testing suggested many were T, even Egyptian. They came from regions far outside the Nile Valley, Sudan, Libya, even Greece. Some carried signs of disease. Others had healed bone fractures. One had a crude copper plate embedded in his skull, possibly the result of primitive surgery. What were these people doing here? Some researchers believe they were pilgrims or patients, the sick and desperate who traveled to Canopus seeking divine healing. Others whispered darker theories, human offerings or victims of failed rituals. And then there was the circle, a stone platform near the city's center, carved with markings that don't match known Egyptian script. It had a channel that once carried water, or blood. Nothing like it had ever been seen in Egypt. To this day, scholars disagree about its purpose. Was it a sacred site for resurrection ceremonies? A temple to a forgotten god? Or something else entirely? Something not meant to be remembered? Whatever it was, someone made sure it was buried deep. And that's exactly what history is like. It doesn't always hand us neat answers. Sometimes it whispers truths, but it's up to us to listen between the lines. History isn't just dates and battles. It's a conversation across time, and we're only beginning to understand the language. In the sands and seas of Egypt lie countless stories waiting to be found. Whispers of cultures long gone, dreams carved in stone. The challenge isn't just excavating the past, it's piecing it back together, understanding the forgotten. Why? Because they have a message for us. They're not just relics of a bygone era. They're pieces of a puzzle, a testament to humanity's journey. Every inscription, every sculpture, every artifact is a story begging to be heard. And as we uncover them, we complete the picture, understanding who we are and where we're from. You know when you're reading a book and something happens and you're like, wait, I know that? Like the narrator just described an event that happened last week. You can call me crazy, but that happened to me while reading this book. It says here that the citizens of Alexandria saw the earthquakes coming. They saw the wells dry up and the canals overflow. They watched the shores get swampy and the temples crumble. They felt the earth split and the foundations crack. They witnessed the slow pull of the sea, how it crept closer and closer to the city. Then in the end, they had a choice. They could leave or stay. And some did leave. They abandoned their homes and fled inland, but most stayed. Now, when I read that, I thought of Hurricane Katrina. I thought of the levees breaking and the people staying put in New Orleans. I thought of those photos from Houston when the dams broke and people were kayaking through the streets. I thought of the constant stream of news reports from around the world with people stubbornly refusing to leave their homes even as fires rage around them or floods creep up their driveways. We love our stuff, whether it's the house we paid off, or the garden we planted, or the street we grew up on. And maybe that's why disasters like Heracleion are such a blind spot in human memory. We don't want to remember them. We don't want to believe that whole cities could disappear. So we let the oceans swallow them and erase them from our collective memory. But I think we need to remember them because the collapse of Heracleion and Canopus is ancient history. It's a warning that even great empires can collapse. A warning that even modern engineering can fail. A warning that even the greatest cities can drown. I mean, we've all heard the expression, everything old is new again. Well, that's certainly true in Alexandria. 2,000 years after Heracleion sank, the same forces are at work again. Rising sea levels, subsiding land, and seismic activity are destroying large swaths of the city. And it's happening faster than anyone predicted. In recent years, scientists discovered that much of the city was built on dangerous, unstable soil, on the edge of the sea, on decaying organic matter. As groundwater was drained, the soil collapsed. Seawater seeped in and turned the soil to sludge. At the same time, the whole area began to shake. Earthquakes struck. The sea responded. Canals filled with salt water. The city started to sink. Suddenly, the people of Alexandria were facing the same threats as their ancestors. And you know what? This story isn't just happening in Egypt. It's happening everywhere. Cities are sinking around the world. Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia, is sinking 6 times faster than the global average. At this rate, the whole city will be underwater by 2100. In Japan, the entire Tokyo Bay Area is projected to be inundated by the end of the century. As we speak, Miami Beach routinely floods during high tide. During low tide, you can literally walk across the street and get stranded on the other side. On Venice, the water level has risen by almost 20 centimeters since 1970. The famous St. Mark's Square floods every 2 years. So the truth is, the fall of Heracleion isn't ancient history. It's a preview. It's a preview of what happens when humans refuse to listen to the ocean. And the scary part is, we've forgotten that story. We've built our cities along the water and then pretended that the water isn't there. We keep building higher and higher, further and further out into the sea, all the while ignoring the ghosts beneath the waves. Now, obviously, I'm being a little dramatic. We're not doomed, right? We're not all gonna drown. But I do think we need to start paying attention to the things that slip through our memory. I think we need to hear those stories. It's not just the myths and legends that have been stripped of all meaning, but the actual events, the ones that were covered up, erased, or simply forgotten. Thanks for watching.